Hey, I'm back for a brief part 3 on saddle. Basically just wanted to point out a couple of parts to keep an eye on and red flags that your saddle might either be broken or really causing some problems. So I went over in part 1 and 2 some basic, excuse the toddler, some basic parts of the saddle and the importance of your billets and the clearance of the spine. So I'm going to show you, let me turn my camera around here, show you a couple of things to watch. Of course, I have help from the toddler because he's always involved. So one of the things you want to check before every ride is your billets. The quality of your leather is important because if they get cracked or the stitches come undone, goodness, he says, sorry, Mom. Your billets can break or come undone, and these are what hold your saddle on. So please check your billets very carefully before each ride. If you notice that one is stretched drastically, take note of that. Maybe have a saddler check it out. It may not fit. Maybe your girth is getting tightened unevenly. So check that. I mentioned the stirrup bar. Here's one with a latch. It's very stiff. It might latch. So the up position is good for storage. It won't go. Mine just stay open. Please leave your stirrup bars open in case you get caught in your stirrup. Your foot can slide out. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the tree inside the saddle is made of wood. If your saddle is made of composite, it may have a little bit more give to it, but most saddles are made of wood with the addition of steel. Some of them have a spring tree like this one. Your spring tree should not flex more than about 1 centimeter. So if you press on this side and wedge them together, it should not flex in and out very much at all. You shouldn't be able to hardly even perceive it. Also, if you put a hand here and then put your saddle against your hip here and pull, no matter how hard you pull, no wrinkles should appear in the seat. It should not flex, okay? The tree, if it flexes anywhere, you see any wrinkles in the leather or any creaking, you may have a broken tree. Likewise, if you put a hand here and diagonally put a hand here and you torque the saddle side to side, it should not twist in the middle. This is meant to be rigid. So if you flex your saddle anywhere and it does that creaking or bending, you have a broken tree. You need to get it checked out. Do not ride in it. Finally, one thing I've seen often is these nail heads can pop loose. I have one that's a little loose here in a non-structural area. Let's see if I can show that. It's a little bit loose through the leather. It goes right into the tree point. It's not terribly important. I'm not worried about it. But especially if you have one up here, that can be another sign of a broken tree. So these need to be nice and secure. I mentioned before that if your horse has any contact here in the gullet, that's a no-no immediately. Another red flag issue is your balance of your saddle. If your saddle has a tilt to it where the cantle is higher, that can signify that it's too wide in the front. Not always, but that's often the case, that the front angle of your tree here is too wide, and it allows the saddle to sink down in the front. Versus if your saddle is higher in the front than the cantle, your seat is too far back, that means it's too narrow in the front almost every time. Not always, there are exceptions. Most often I see saddles that are higher in the cantle, like this, and that puts a lot of pressure on the front end of the horse. That is 9 times out of 10 when I see a saddle fitting issue, seems to be the problem. Especially with Western. For some reason, they tend to only make Western saddles in super wide sizes, and that means that the majority of our average to small horses are going to have fit issues. So please make sure that your saddle, when viewed from the side and cinched down, sits relatively level. The cantle is going to be just a little bit higher on most of these English saddles, but your seat should rest in the center, not way back here and not way up on the pommel. So check that out on your horse. Another important thing to check for is excuse me, uneven sweat marks. Declan, say I'm sorry, Mommy.
Bye.
He likes playing with my bits and things. He has a really good time with that. As you can tell, he's rearranging. If you have uneven sweat marks, oftentimes you're going to see a pinch area right here underneath just the stirrup bar. This is often the narrowest point of the saddle, and it will cause a dry or ruffled or otherwise uneven sweat mark on your horse's back. It'll look like sweaty, 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 dry spot. If you have a dry spot about size of a $50 or smaller, that's a big red flag. There's a problem. Occasionally, you will see a sweat mark under here, right behind the horse's shoulder, and another small one right here. If that's the case, that means your saddle is bridging. So your horse's back has a bit of a sway to it, and your saddle does not mirror that shape. You'll end up with a bridging effect. If you notice any uneven sweat marks on your horse, anything abnormal like that, anything that's not consistent, anything that raises any question marks, please get it checked out by a saddle fitter. So we'll do Western saddles next. I'd like to get some on horse so that we can discuss it right on the animal, look at the anatomy. We'll draw it out with some chalk and mark what areas are meant to be weight bearing and what areas are absolutely never meant to be weight bearing. And we'll discuss topics like girth fit and stuff too. So thanks for watching.